Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on Friday, July 28th. We're going to take a look at NLST today. I've never heard of NLST, but I have had a few requests to take a look at it, so we'll do just that. And as I like to do when I'm looking at a brand new ticker, we're going to start on the weekly chart, and then we're going to back into the daily. And let's plot ourselves some levels that look interesting. So nice uptick here for the beginning of the year, and then obviously this has been drawing down since, let's just say, May. And has had a significant drawdown. Actually, it's almost a 50% downtick in that period of time. So let's see on the weekly what support and resistance levels we can find, and we'll kind of go from there. I'm going to obviously look for something near into recent price action. So we'll start here. You see all this sort of wicking off this level. Finally, it kind of gives way. And then it hits basically one, maybe 2 days or weeks of resistance, and then it just plummets. Coming back, then it wicks through this level, comes down, confirms it as support, pushes off, comes down and confirms it 3 weeks in a row. So that's a pretty significant level. And, I put it in as 306 here. It's very close to where we are at the end of close today. Psychologically, that may just be the $3 level. It's a little bit hard to tell with stocks that are this low cost. Those pennies may make a difference. But generally speaking, I would be apt to say that that $3 level is sort of what's important. Scrolling further left, interesting to see that this wick came down pretty close to that level. This big push came through that level as well, and then these wicks came off. And this is way in 2021. So interesting that that has sort of a storied past at that $3 or 306 level, and that's sort of right where it is at the moment. Now, so historically speaking, if it's going to sort of reject off of there or fall through there and then confirm a resistance level off of that, then yeah, it certainly might draw down based on that previous price action. If it does, let's take a look at a couple of levels that seem to stand out. Here are a few pivot points, right? It tried to build a floor here for a few weeks, fell through, and then rejected off of it here, and then pushed down further. Similarly, as it recovered, hit that level, came through on the next week, confirmed off of it, and then it was able to push to the next level and build a floor there. So that like 250-ish level is pretty important as well, based on previous price action. What's interesting here? Probably something like this. It's a little janky. I don't know. There's something potentially here, just shy of the $2 level. You see clear resistance here, and then sort of a bit messy price action in these weeks, but it certainly comes through and then confirms and then sort of takes off. So it doesn't spend a lot of time sort of struggling with that level, but it does sort of react to it for sure. You see it comes down here and also bats around for 3 or maybe 4 weeks even before it comes down. What I would have liked to see if this was a more impactful level was it to come down more cleanly, reconfirm that rejection of 2, and then come down here below $1. But, that might just be a slightly weaker level. So maybe I'll put that as a dash and just say, 2, there's something to it, but it might be kind of weaker. This is probably a little bit stronger here. You see these levels here. You see all this sort of candlestick action and this candlestick action here. That's a bit cleaner. That's a bit repetitive and is a little bit smoother of a transition from support to resistance and vice versa. So 225-ish, probably a bit more impactful, I would say, than that $2 level. I know it's 198 there, but like I said, I would just round that to 2 potentially for ease of remembrance and sort of validating the psychological levels. Okay, so we're going to flip over here to the daily and put in some additional levels. Interesting here, maybe this trend line. If I look at the top, not the wick, but the top of the body of the candle, it looks like maybe, I don't know if this is going to draw out super well or super clean. Yeah, that's pretty solid. So this seems like a pretty obvious downtrend line here to me. And it wicks through it sometimes, but predominantly it's shucking off of it with these candles. Certainly here throughout this period in May and June, but then even recently, and it made an attempt here even just about, was that a few days ago, 4 days ago or so. So it could be coming down into sort of a descending triangle there. We'll have to see sort of how that plays out. And if it kind of pushes through to here, certainly it could go this way. But these are apt to kind of slouch down. And I know it looks like earnings are coming up. Is that right? And so that's probably going to dominate anything. Yeah, anything above and beyond what the chart is sort of showing us. But whichever way it breaks, hopefully the chart then gives us a little bit of a map toward if it breaks upward, if it breaks downward, where we might be able to catch some, good support or resistance levels and just sort of make a decision on buy, sell, hold, what have you. No position, whatever it is. So that's the obvious trend line that I would take a look at. And I know there's a little bit of an uptrend here. I mean, we don't know if this low point is going to hold though, right? This is just on a downtick. So I'd be reluctant to draw a trend line from here through there because we don't know if this is going to hold, whereas this has hit and confirmed several times. So that's, I'm a little less sort of wary of that. Seems to be a level here around 330, right? You see all this price action here previously. And then recently tried to hold, slipped, tried to retake it, retook it briefly, slipped again. And then even in that slip, it tried to take it 4 days in a row, 3 or 4 days in a row. So certainly something there on the 330 mark. So that gets a little bit more, it gets us off just the pure psychological levels of, 50 cents, 25 cents, dollar, that sort of thing. Here, this is relatively clean. You see a bunch of topping out here. You see a bunch of sort of fighting here on the price action. And then you see here, right, tried to hold, it pushed off, came back, had the possibility to push off again, but fell through, reconfirmed resistance there, and then had this big drop on this day. Because we're on the daily here, this was down over 14%. So, and then recently also reconfirmed that resistance level. So 330 for sure would be a helpful level for it to retake if the bulls are going to take charge of this again, but certainly 372, very, very important level, as we can see there. We'll do one more. This seems like a pretty clear one to me. All this topping out. This bottom is very clear, very obvious. The beginning of this gap, right, that then got filled. And then some topping out over here, sort of an attempted push through here that got rejected. So that to me seems like a very obvious level. That 405 might act as a 4, like a psychological 4. But there's a lot of action there. So it might be more predominantly in the 405 area versus just that psychological 4. So those are the levels that I'd be looking at, if I were in the stock, which I'm not. Again, I had never heard of it. So let me do a quick recap of the levels, and then we'll go over and take a look at the Thinkorswim chart, because that I use slightly differently. So here, this downtrend is predominant. That is the most important thing to me. This downtrend, can it be broken? Even if it means that it sort of like shoves its way through horizontally. Can that happen? That needs to be broken if the bulls are going to do anything, obviously. But the levels in which that could take charge, there's potentially a level here around 290. That's kind of questionable, but you see this low point here, and you see that. I'm just going to put this in. I know we hadn't done it yet, but this is sort of showing itself to me as I zoom out. You see this low point, and then you see all this action, right? Flips from resistance to support to lose it and then regain support there, and then a big push off. So there might be something to that 290 level if it does lose the support of this sort of 305, 306 level. If not, potentially a drop toward that 250 level, as we see down here, 225, and then basically 2 below that. If it is able to push upward, or there's good earnings call and it reacts bullish based on that, 330, and then maybe some relatively smooth sailing through 350 up to 370, 372. It sort of appears that may be the case. It's not going to be a one fell swoop. It's not going to be a one candlestick kind of deal. It might bat itself around a bit, up and down, up and down, up and down, but it might be not a ton of resistance currently between 330 and 370. Could it develop? Of course, but this is just what we have to work with at the moment. And then if it can breach and build support over that 372 level, then 4 and just above 4 could certainly be in play once again. So those are the levels I'm looking at. Now, Thinkorswim, let's take a look at channels and triggers. So triggers down here on this TTM squeeze, I say this in most videos, so I'll try to be brief, but this has nothing to do with a short squeeze. This is not that. It's a totally different thing. Short squeezes become very popular. Just, put that out of your mind when you're thinking of this. What this is saying is basically price action is building, it's squeezing, and then it's going to explode. And so what you're looking for are these red dots. Those red dots are triggers. And that's when the indicator is saying it's sort of building toward a big move, building toward a big move, building toward a big move. And then when the green presents itself, then it's saying, okay, it's starting to react to all of that triggering, to all of that building of the big move. And that's where you would expect the big move to start. You see back here, it had a very brief 1 dot trigger, and then it had a big move downward, right? So that one certainly played out. You had 3 dots of trigger here, and then this was sort of a nothing, right? This was mostly sideways. So certainly, as all indicators would go, it's not 100%, and it's not it's not the only thing to consider, because this, would have certainly fooled you. If you thought a big move was coming there, it wasn't. You needed one more trigger, and then the big move came. So sometimes there can certainly be fake outs. But taking a look at where we are, it's falling below this gold level here, which typically, based on the study that I have set up in Thinkorswim, would be potentially a level where it's going to draw down further, where the stock is going to further lose price. And it's starting to fire with that green dot at that level. Now, could that mean it's going to fire and push off and come up? Potentially. It's also near the bottom of the channel. And as you see, it's really not common for it to fall out the bottom of the channel and spend a lot of time there. You see one candlestick here, and then it quickly comes back to the center. And now it's pushing back toward the bottom again. Does that mean it's going to revert toward the center again relatively soon? Maybe. In a relatively bullish environment, these stocks can sort of spend more time outside the upper bound of the channel, which is what you see here, and then revert to the mean. So this is just to say it's kind of starting to fire. It's at the pivot point of, this lower level. It's nearing the lower bound of this channel, and it's pretty oversold at this point. It's 34 on the RSI. So, it's, like I said, it's going to really depend on that earnings call. But if that earnings call is perceived as good, whether it's actually good or not, but if it's perceived as good, there's a lot of room for this to move up. But as we've seen in even the relatively recent past, this was late 2022, so less than a year ago. This was it's over $3 now. This was much less than $1 at that point. And so can this react strongly in both directions? Yes. So that's just to say, I don't have a stake in this. If I were playing it, which I'm not planning to, based on the earnings call, I would expect there could be a very strong move one direction or the other. But I'm not going to crystal ball it because that's just a fool's errand. But to the degree it draws down, these are the levels that I would look at. To the degree to which it pushes upward, those are the levels that I would look at on the upward side of things. If it breaks through those to the up or the downside, I'm happy to come back and take a look if folks are interested. If so, leave a comment if you've made it this far into the video, which I know is already a lot to ask. But yeah, hopefully this, is interesting to some degree. But in any case, I hope you had a good trading week and that you enjoy your weekend and that you have a good week ahead and enjoy the earnings call coming up. I don't know if it's pre-market or it doesn't say. But in any case, good luck if you are playing this one. I'd be happy to come back and take a look, like I said, if there is interest. All right, folks, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.